Good morning and welcome to Vision Forex. Thank you all so much for being here today. We have an action-packed program, 16 speakers, 2 hours, plus every other contribution from all of you here today. Thank you so much to all our speakers for taking the time to share their knowledge and their insight. There's a lot of preparation that goes into this, and thank you so much for that. Special thanks to the CUBE team, of course, for working on all of this and making sure that everything runs smoothly and well. Also, a very big thank you to our sponsors, EBO and iSpiral. We greatly support everything that you do to help us and sponsor us and make sure that, you know, everything is going well for us today. So thank you, everybody. From my side, I'm handing over to Marta, who is responsible for the production, again, doing an amazing job. Thanks, Marta.
Thank you so much and welcome, everyone. I hope you will have a great 2 hours full of good energy and practical knowledge. Please feel free to write the questions on chat. After each panel, we will have a couple of minutes to answer all of your questions. There is also the questions tab, so you can either type it on chat or in this questions tab. I will also post a couple of polls, and at the end, during this closing part, we will see the results. So have a good morning, and yeah, let's start.
Great. Thanks so much, Marta. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Andrew Marina, Andrew Sachs, who are our chairman. Thank you so much for that. We've also got Gigi Gat, who's on the stage, who will shortly be introduced by the chairman as well. So thank you to everybody. Wishing you a great event. Please ask questions, please interact, and please enjoy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction. Very good morning, everyone. Greetings from the sunny Cyprus. Good day, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Vision Forex event, another beautiful event hosted by CUBE Events. We are Andrew Marina and
Andrew Sachs, and we say a big good morning from where it's very unusually sunny in both Limassol and here in London. So I'd like to say hello to everybody who's joining us today for this very interesting event. We have a lot of senior Forex industry executives with a lot of interesting topics to talk about, and certainly how's things over there in rainy Limassol, Andrew, or should I say the other way around?
Well, when you're attending an event of such caliber, Andrew, who cares about the weather? Very good morning, Andrew Sachs. How is London doing today? What's the weather like at ETX?
Well, not that much different to Cyprus today. Unusually, that's a very unusual thing. So the markets probably very similar, weather very similar. We have what they call parity, I believe. So, you know, however, when you're, as you quite rightly say, when you're attending an event of this caliber, it doesn't really, who cares about what's going on outside? It's what's going on in the event which really counts.
Exactly.
So how's things at Instruct FX today, Andrew?
Oh, blue skies and rainbows, Andrew, and a massive heat wave. So happy 1st of July, everyone. How are you coping with the heat in London, Andrew? It started very unexpected this year, just like a breakout in Forex. All calm, and all of a sudden it happens.
It did indeed, and there's been a lot of changes in the climate of Forex over the last just few months. Since actually 2021 has been a very, very unusual year, been one of those milestone years where a lot of new circumstances have come about, that some of them we've never heard before, which we'll touch on later, such as meme stock speculation and things like that, which are really shaping the way we look at our industry in to cater for people's tastes in the future.
And I'm looking forward to that. And I'll tell you what, talking about the heat, it was actually so hot last week that for the first time in a very long time, I drank more water than whiskey. Can you imagine? Right. Let's get down to business and start this beautiful event organized once again by Cube Events, which is Vision Forex 2021. Look what's on the agenda for today. We have forest stocks. We have compliance stocks. What else do we have? We have the beautiful Anna Ilukina as a guest. What else do we have?
We have some senior institutional Forex executives very importantly speaking to brokerages. So these are components of the Forex industry that are vital, which is often not seen from the outside, where the relationship between liquidity providers and brokerages is vital to the lifeblood of our industry, really. So that's coming up later in the event.
So, shall we unveil the bride, Andrew? Do you want to go first and brag about your successful career for a couple of minutes, or should I do it?
Far too modest for that, Andrew. You go ahead by all means.
Right. All I want is people to understand we're not Bradley Cooper and George Clooney, like I'm sure everyone thought until now. So I'll go first. Yeah, I'll take the lead. It's fine. I like to brag. So my name is Andrew Marina, and for the last 10 years, I've worked in many retail and institutional Forex brokerages in Europe. And starting last year, I'm the proud founder and CEO at InstructFX. We provide free mentoring for beginner and experienced traders, and we welcome them on the markets, making sure they truly understand how online trading works in a regulated environment. We also have an online TV channel where we post lovely educational content every day and live broadcasts from industry professionals. And the last but not the least, we are providing on-demand webinars, seminars, staff training, sales training, and video content for brokerages. This is me, Andrew. The stage is yours.
Right, so I've been around a long time. I'm a very old, very cantankerous middle-aged man, and I've been in this industry since 1991 when I started as an apprentice, which was with one of the companies that manufactures routing and telephony for trading systems, for institutional trading. Now that market is pretty much sewn up by Equinix, but back then there were a couple of other competitors. Companies still exist today. So I moved on from that, started my own software consultancy, which I ran for 18 years in different cities around the world, financial centers around the world, working on data and infrastructure projects for bank trading desks and management consultancies such as Price Waterhouse and so forth, and within the tier one banks. Sold the company in 2008, and I figured, when there's when we are an online business, it's a very electronic business. So when you are a broker or when you are any component of this industry, you have a screen to look at. You don't necessarily know who is behind that screen or who your supplier is. So there was no space for there was no transparency in the market. So I thought what we need really is a sort of centralized news source to bring everybody together, so you can publish what's happening within the industry on a very detailed basis. So I had the idea. Turns out somebody else had the idea before me, who is now very well known in this industry and runs events all over the world and has a very large company. So I joined him, and we worked together doing that for some time until I established Finance Feeds. And Finance Feeds was my own version of that, which was one of the largest and one of the most recognized producers of research and reporting and news for the inside of the Forex industry. So pretty much everyone used to come to me with their exactly what was happening, and I knew I had my finger on the pulse. Sold the company in September last year. Company still exists. So what I did then was, for the first time in my life, went to work as a salaried employee for a brokerage. So I'm now at ETX Capital as head of research and analysis here in London. So it was a very nice move. It's a very good quality company, been around a very long time, and I was in a fortunate position to choose the company to work for carefully. And I'm very glad I did, because ETX Capital is going places, starting to work towards becoming a digital bank, and a neobank, and having a range of expansion on its financial services it offers through its own proprietary platforms over the next time. So I shall be involved in that, which will be very exciting as we continue. All of us in this conference today are people who should be proud that we are people who are moving the financial services industry forward through technology as time goes on. And with all of us, I have to say, having seen it from the outside for most of my life, all of you in this industry have a lot to be proud of, because we are very good at driving things forward. So, looking forward to speaking to you all today.
All right. Enough bragging, Andrew. We have a full house today with reputable people, so I can't wait to introduce them to you. Andrew, shall we proceed with the first event, with the first guest?
Yes, absolutely. So,
right.
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. Right. So it is a great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Jeje Gat today, CEO at EBO, which will be the main speaker at the first event today. Jeje, very good morning to you and nice to see you here.
Good morning. Thank you, Andrew. It's great to be here. I'm also in a 42-degree warm Malta. So we're enjoying the heat wave, but it's the first day of legally masks off. And so that gives us some pleasure in taking off our masks and certainly in sync with today's event, shaking off some old habits in the Forex sector and looking forward through innovation to new opportunities that we have to change the market.
Right. Okay. Now, today you're going to be talking about the 5 pillars of success, correct?
That's right.
All right. Andrew, if you have any questions, please do. If not, we're going to leave Jeje to it to start this beautiful event.
By all means. Look
Perfect.
forward to it, Jeje.
The stage is yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. And Andrew, I'm going to share my screen. So just confirm once you see that orange screen up live. Can you see my screen, Andrew? Andrew, just confirming if you could see my share screen.
I see your screen. Everything is loud and clear. Looks beautiful.
Perfect. Let's go for it right away. So last year, 82% of Forex leaders reported that they're going to be prioritizing self-service capabilities in 2021. And this is perfectly an opportunity for us to ask ourselves why. Why is this happening in the Forex sector in this particular post-pandemic period, right? I think it's because when you think of the process that we use in the industry to serve our customers, your first line customer service has been traditionally, let's say, a bit weak. It's been a human process. Sometimes it's been outsourced to India or elsewhere. Sometimes it's been held internally. But if we certainly can agree on one principle, Andrew, it's this, that whenever we have complex administrative workflows or processes, they typically have inflated costs to the Forex company. So what that typically means is that they compromise the customer experience and they hinder this transition that we need to have as a community into a self-serve type of society. And this is critical as we all are learning how to readjust in this sort of, new digital, vibrant environment, Andrew. And what we also observe, and I'm sure you see this in both the centers of Limassol and London, is that very often the effectiveness of contact centers declines, right? We have rising customer expectations, which are often shaped by the global giants of this world, like Amazon and eBay, who are driving this constant, instant gratification of service. We have more multilingual requirements. So as our platforms start operating in different jurisdictions, we need to understand the language, the culture of the particular country. There are more communication channels which our customers want to contact the Forex entity with, right? Gone are the days where phone and email are sufficient, right? We are in the world of Facebook Messenger, of WhatsApp, of different omni-channel requirements within which the customer journey touches the Forex platform. And it's all about, lastly, this tighter integration into the core back office, right, downstream technology systems within the Forex organization, because we want to capture and we want to provide more meaningful data to our customers. So let's kick off this journey of 5 pillars right here. And let's talk about the conversations which exist, right? I think AI is the most important way of changing the customer journey. And we believe that conversations are the oldest trick in the book. The best way for a Forex organization to remain close to its customers is simple. Speak to them, right? And it's no surprise that the Financial Times argues today that conversation is indeed the new UI. It is indeed the new interface, because artificial intelligence allows us to create automated conversations. It's a completely new way of making our service available to Forex customers, from the small devices which they have in their pockets, wearables, and so on. It's a very natural way. And this is the first pillar of AI success in Forex, right? So it's about using artificial intelligence for more than simply algorithmic trading or mere algorithmic intelligence in regulatory affairs or transaction monitoring. It's about creating relationships. It's about creating those meaningful conversations between the company and the customer, and doing so at scale, 24/7, in any language, managing any support request instantly with zero wait time, with zero handling costs. And in truth, it's always been about conversations, isn't it? It's the oldest trick in the book, and we sometimes lose sight because technology is often seen to be cold or impersonal, and artificial intelligence is incorrectly blamed to be cold and impersonal. It's not, right? And so we could use the technology and move off the inbuilt legacy that we typically have when thinking about handling customer service in Forex. We have the tendency to do the same things in the old way over and over again. And so here's an example. In this graph, you could see a comparison between the typical number of sign-up fields in an FX form in the UK versus the US, right? So what you're obviously seeing here is that your British sign-up form for a Forex trading platform is typically 33% more complex than an American one. And it's strange, not simply because we keep doing the same elements of complexity over and over again, thus reducing our conversion rate, but we're front-loading the process. We're putting a high bar right at the front of the onboarding process, pushing customers away. And this is strange. It's particularly strange because we're living in this, retail-styled environment, governed by this, one simple question with one simple answer world. And of course, this device which we're seeing on screen started it all, right? Where the simplicity of the onboarding process, the simplicity of asking a question and getting a response has changed the world entirely. So the Forex customer journey too must be also simplified. And we can use artificial intelligence particularly to both understand the onboarding or customer service process and to generate natural conversations with our customers. And it's no surprise that up to 58% of customers in the Forex space will typically sever, cut, destroy their relationship with a business if they receive poor customer service. And this, Andrew, is the second pillar of success using AI, right? It's about creating this direct correlation between good customer service and customer retention and loyalty, and doing so in this retail-styled FX world. One simple question, one simple onboarding process, one simple answer. I believe Gartner put it so well in the title which they invented, which is the everything customer, right? This phrase which they coined to signify the world of expectations that we live in, right? The world which is a multi-channel experience. It's no longer email and phone call, it's so many other tools. This idea that most customers, especially younger customers, would expect to connect with a Forex platform through digital giants. Here, to be clear, I'm talking of the likes of Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Slack, Skype, Telegram, Kik, and all the different channels which exist in the particular territories which we operate in. So we're looking at a generation which want experience-driven journeys, right? It's not simply a demographic segment of the audience we're looking at, it is a true mindset. And I believe the FX company of tomorrow needs to understand much, much better this particular mindset, this everything customer. And it's no surprise that a recent study has found that 85% of millennials don't believe that they are too young to start getting into trading and investment. In fact, the average age of an FX millennial is 28, right? They've got huge access to technology, a fair amount of financial literacy, but what is more relevant is that they are the generation of instant gratification. Serve me now and serve me well. And this, Andrew, is the third pillar of AI success. It's understanding how to serve a new demanding customer base, right? A customer base that is omnichannel, that is constantly multilingual, and wants real-time access to both the platform, but also the specific trading questions that it has. So let's dig a little bit deeper and let's move into the onboarding and effectiveness of the onboarding process. So today we know that the average landing page conversion rate is only 2.3%. So only 2 out of every 100 customers that hit an FX site will actually go on with registering and eventually trading. This is crazy. I mean, we are losing 98 out of every 100 customers that get to our sites, but we've come to accept it. And you know, what is the right formula for engagement? What picture are we seeing here? Well, we know that there are regulatory complexities which don't allow us to funnel the right segments into our sites. We know that there is the declining effectiveness of social media channel, and we know that complex online experiences, like the front-loaded online form I spoke about earlier, certainly don't help in converting. And we are living again in this environment where the average customer attention span for the registration process in Forex is 6 seconds, only 6 seconds. And that is roughly the attention span of a goldfish, right? So why is the Forex industry not evolving faster? Well, there are 2 reasons here. One of them is put very nicely by Moody's, who say that, you know, large players are increasingly less able to innovate. They're increasingly less able to capitalize on the technology advancements, particularly those brought by AI and automation. The second reason that we typically see is that your traditional customer service model is entirely broken, right? In a recent survey, we saw that 75% of customers are frustrated when they call an FX company or email it, even when their particular problem is solved, let alone those where their problems are either ignored, put aside in a queue, or just not solved. And this, Andrew, is the 4th pillar of AI success. It's understanding that the capitalization on technology innovation, particularly automation driven by AI, is the key to unlock the attention economy. It is the key to ensure that the customer base can convert effectively in an FX journey. What we also know is that Gartner predicts that by just next year, 85% of all customer service interactions will indeed kick off with a self-service approach. And this is up from 48% in 2021. This is how AI-driven communication creates an opportunity for Forex companies today. So it allows for essentially 4 key things, right? It allows us to reduce the high costs, which are often associated with expensive live human agents. It's not simply about the expense. The truth is that most of our listeners in today's webinars know that HR departments are stressed to find the right people for these roles and eventually retain them effectively to capture enough knowledge and grow it within the organization. Some Forex companies tell us that the average retention of a good customer-facing agent is often not more than 16 to 17 months. That's too little before that knowledge is lost and dissipated out of the organization. The second benefit that AI automation in conversations could bring to a Forex company is reducing the high average handling times that we typically see in the market. These gaps between the expectation of the customer and the ability of the Forex company to serve. We've seen some of our Forex customers, Andrew, which tell us that sometimes emails stand in a queue for 1 week. 1 week. This is in a world where typically Amazon or eBay are responding within 22 minutes on a deal which is sometimes, or a purchase which is sometimes much larger than the particular trade that the customer is asking about. We need to reduce this handling time. We need to reduce these expectation anxieties which we typically see in the market. And therefore, we want to improve the quality of service, not simply because improving the quality of service is an ideal standard for companies, but because it helps us cross-sell other products or services. It allows us to create recommendation opportunities, to mine the data of each individual customer to provide better recommendations on how to use the platform, right? And what we certainly want to do is remove what the Italian engineer Pareto is principle for, right? Reduce the Pareto principle. We know today that 80% of all the conversations which hit a Forex company today relate to the small 20% subset of thematic queries. Why do we create agent burnout answering the same repetitive questions time and time again when automation through artificial intelligence can do all that, can do so in real time, across multiple channels, across multiple languages, whilst reducing the operating expenditure typically associated with this particular problem. So customer experience, I'm sure you'll agree, is quickly becoming the key differentiator in the Forex sector. It is the primary source of value add, right, for most companies in the Forex space. And this is why I think we look at creating what we call the zero-touch service model. So it's a fully automated, AI-enabled, cloud-based service process for Forex. And this is the fifth and final pillar of AI success, right? It's about bringing a digital-first strategy in service, which is all about incrementally making manual, repetitive work more efficient through automation. And what that gives us, Andrew, and I'll end here, is 3 key benefits. The benefits of being always on. Gone are the days where we say, I'm sorry, our agents will roll out of office, leave us a message, we'll speak to you tomorrow. We become a 24/7 customer-first organization. We can personalize our conversations with the right data, giving the right information to the right customer at the right time. And it creates a seamless experience. You can speak to the Forex company on any channel which is typically culturally relevant in your particular country. What is, social messaging channels used in Turkey are not the same social messaging channels used in Italy, which are not the same channels used in Britain. As a result, the FX company can typically change its communication platforms and methods based on what is culturally resonant in that particular territory. And lastly, from a regulatory compliance perspective, what zero-touch service means is this. Whilst humans typically are more sloppy at the end of a service period, 10 hours answering the same question, you typically have lack of consistency, right, in the response provision. What we see is that AI is constantly consistent and provides responses and interactions within the regulatory framework allowances. And that's critical because today, what is coupled with customer excellence is regulatory compliance. And you need to make sure that the lever of both of these two is held together. And that's our aspiration. And we'd love to work with companies that share the same philosophy, share the same aspiration towards these 5 pillars of AI success. Thank you, Andrew.
Brilliant, said Jeje. It's been a pleasure to watch this presentation. However, I do have a couple of questions, if I may. And if anyone has questions, please feel free to type your questions. Andrew, do you have any questions?
Actually, very interesting. And I agree with you, Jeje, about large institutions finding it very difficult to adapt, because a lot of large institutions, particularly tier 1 banks and so forth, and big institutional trading houses, have legacy systems, because it's very difficult for them to, it's always not very viable for them always to start again with new systems, because there's a huge risk involved. So you build on top of old systems. So it's very difficult to innovate from scratch and go into an AI world. You know, Sberbank in Russia did it by replacing 3,000 lawyers with an AI lawyer. But that's a side issue. The actual trading and financial system, very hard to regenerate that from scratch, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I think there are 2 key points that you make here, Andrew. The first one relates to innovation strategy. And the second one is pragmatically, where do you start, right? Should it be AI lawyers or any other artifacts? Let me start with the first. The problem that we typically see in most Forex companies is that their innovation strategy isn't clear and very well defined. As a result, they typically take on short-term projects which seem interesting at the time or well priced, but they don't all align to a particularly ultimate goal. So an innovation strategy in Forex means, or should dictate rather, that the direction of innovation and its operational implementation have one particular end goal. So that is one of the most confusing parts. More than legacy technology, it's the lack of vision and clarity. Once well articulated, the choice of projects typically is a little bit easier. And that takes me to the second point that you raised, Andrew, with the example of the AI lawyer. So where do you start? Pragmatically, if you hear a presentation like mine, what does that typically nudge? Well, what we found in artificial intelligence is that you want to start small to avoid the productivity paradox, which typically implies that you put in a lot of effort and get a little bit of return. You want to understand which is the pain point which presents the low-hanging fruit, with which we can start with a proof of concept, which once scaled up could transform our business. But starting with that low-hanging fruit, starting with that single pain point, which can be solved through proven technology, allows you to create internal championship of the idea. Because once you have data that demonstrates effectiveness, once you have measurable success, then it's very easy to 10x it or 100x it across the entire organization. And that's where you start. A structured innovation strategy, a proven first POC.
I agree, and that's how someone like Accenture would come in and do a project. But one of the difficulties in the retail Forex industry over the last few years is the outsourcing of technology to there's a lot of companies that don't have their own proprietary technology. They are basically a marketing company, and all of the trading technologies is provided by MetaQuotes, for example. So a lot of them don't look beyond, as you rightly say, they don't look beyond that. They think, oh, we've done a few deposits this month, and then they've just stopped thinking about modernizing anything because it's out of their hands. I think that's something which really has to change in the future. We really are a fintech world that we live in now, and should be going down the fintech route.
I agree, Andrew. And there's certainly another layer to that argument which you put forward, and that is the differentiation between intellectual property and data. right? So when we seek to build systems, we shouldn't necessarily seek to reinvent the wheel,
Yes.
to redevelop from ground zero technology which is commercially available, but we should certainly seek to retain ownership and governance of the data which goes through these systems. And that's often where we go wrong, that we misunderstand that the intrinsic value lies not in the technology pillar, but in the data which is either created through that technology pillar or which is processed. And that is where governance models are very critical.
Yep, agree with that.
Right. I have something to add, if I may. Jeje, you mentioned something brilliant earlier on, which is the agent burnout. And I know it because I've been in the front line of the sales floors for many years. Yes, when it comes to the agent burnout, the AI is a big plus. However, what do we do regarding the human touch? Because many people come to a Forex company with awkward expectations, with very weird expectations. And us as salespeople, we don't only teach people how to use the basics of the platform and the basics of the financial markets. We also try to educate them to managing their expectations. How can the artificial intelligence do that versus the agent?
Andrew, thank you for this brilliant question, and thank you for bringing it up. So AI should never replace human agency or human ability. AI should augment human capability. And that is the key differentiation which we need to put out there. AI should not threaten the livelihood of agents. It should assist it. So what are we looking at over here? We believe that there is a very important role that humans have to play in service and engagement. And you mentioned a few examples in education, but there are others. Emotional intelligence. Sometimes you need humans to do what they're best at, which is show empathy, right? And we can never remove that. However, there are 80% of all the dialogues that occur that do not require empathy, that require a fast, immediate, within 3 seconds response, right? And that is where AI comes in. In other words, artificial intelligence is an excellent first line of communication because it speaks all the languages imaginable. We support over 80 languages, Andrew, in any channel imaginable and within any regulatory parameter required in a consistent way. However, for the 20% of conversations which cannot be handled by artificial intelligence, we have a solution which actually hands over the particular ticket to a human. And this is the beautiful thing, Andrew. The future of service is going to be blended. It's going to be a blend of artificial intelligence and human capability. Neither one nor the other will be sufficient, but both together, that makes an incredible offering for the market.
Brilliantly said. We know a few Forex companies, quite a few already went towards the AI, and so far so good for them. The other thing you've mentioned is the two things actually. One, why do we register so much in Europe versus the US? Now, again, being on the front line of the sales floor for so many years, I think I do have an idea. We like to register. Europeans either like to register and click anywhere, or the marketing campaigns, that are run in Europe are not so strict as the ones in the US. That was the other thing I wanted to mention. Do you have any thoughts about it?
Yes, what we're seeing is a new trend, Andrew, that there is a pro-privacy mentality which is growing in Europe. So this is principally started off with the GDPR, but we are seeing other regulatory environments that are making citizens more and more aware about a pro-privacy culture. So if we had to project forward, what is the Forex market going to look like in 2025? I believe that the onboarding and registration processes, which will be simpler, which will be more natural, maybe which will be just like a conversation, like the one you and I are having today, Andrew, those are the ones which will be successful because they will be trustworthy, and because they will require less data. And that feeds into the idea that the average age of the millennial trading today, age 28, which is typically very concerned about his or her privacy, that idea, that philosophy will be better respected. So I do predict that we will have shorter, simpler, and more pro-privacy forms in the future. And I think AI is a great opportunity for that. We have found in some of our main markets that when a customer knows that they are speaking to an AI virtual agent, they are more honest, because they're not trying to fool a human, and they know that the intelligence that the AI has to cross-check the data given is far higher. So you have an interesting change in society, right? Where most people prefer speaking to AI virtual agents. It's faster, it's easier, and it's more correct. So shorter forms, higher conversion rates for registration, more AI-mediated onboarding.
Absolutely agree with that. Thank you.
Yeah,
and
very
actually
well
today, now we're progressing on to. Thank you very much, JJ. Very nice to hear that incredibly comprehensive insight into AI, and I think we're definitely going in that direction. So now, without further ado, we're progressing on to the first panel of the day, which is about sales and marketing strategies. And this is something which is very important to the global forex industry, because we are online. We are an online business, but we are also a relationship business. So what I'd like to introduce today's first panelists, which will be a panel about sales and marketing strategies, led by a very experienced professional in this particular sector, who is Nick Lewis, who is the founder and CEO of Explosive. Hello, Nick. Nice to see you.
Good morning.
Hi, Andrew. Yeah, long time no
Great
speak.
to see you. Absolutely. Really good. Nice to see you. How's things?
Yeah, good.
Good. And Nick will be leading today's panel, and is a very experienced. We've all experienced with Nick's very good leadership in panels across the world over the last few years. And joining Nick on today's panel are a selection of senior executives from the brokerage sector and the tier 1 bank sector. So we have Anna Lukina from NBH Markets, who is managing director at the company. Hello, Anna.
Hi, I'm actually from Orbex.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
We can edit that in post-production. Good morning, Anna. Nice to see you.
Good morning.
So very nice to see you. We have also Paul Van Sint-Vit from who is head of transactional FX sales for the Asia Pacific region at JP Morgan Chase. Hi, Paul.
Good morning, guys. Or good afternoon for me.
Yes. And we also have Ian Daniels, Executive Director, Head of EFX Distribution EMEA at Nomura. Good morning, Ian. Nice to see you.
I think he disappeared.
Oh, Ian, what happened? I just saw you in there.
Hello,
Ian, good morning. I was just introducing you. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you too. Thanks for having me, guys.
And we have Ria Selvaratnam, who is Head of FX Sales at Investec. Hi, Ria.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Good
Absolutely.
morning. Yes.
Well pronounced. Hi, everyone. Looking forward to panel.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it. So certainly, there are some very interesting topics on this particular panel, and one of them is very interesting and has been a conundrum for the FX industry, whether on the tier 1 institutional side and the retail side for quite some years, and that is how to access local expertise to mitigate FX market risk and, very importantly, execution costs. Over to you, Nick.
Right,
guys, thanks very much for the warm introduction. You've done half the work for me, so I don't have to introduce myself anymore. But I would like maybe the members of the panel to introduce themselves again, very briefly, and talk about who they are and where they come. And I'll just go according to my screen, the way I see it on my screen, which is Yuri. You want to kick off?
Yeah, sure. Hey, good morning. I'm Yuri van Eck. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, good morning. I'm Yuri van Eck, and I currently work at Flow Traders, where I'm responsible for the distribution of our FX and precious metals liquidity. Very briefly, Flow Traders is a proprietary market maker providing liquidity in ETFs since 2004, and we have grown out to become a market leader there in that area. And it's our ambition to become a global electronic liquidity provider across assets, and therefore we've expanded into providing liquidity in different asset classes as well, such as FX, precious metals, and even cryptos. And there we offer unique SKUs and uncorrelated liquidity, which is generated on the back of our ETF market making business.
Great, Paul.
Let me mute myself. So I don't think I have to introduce JP Morgan, but I head up our what we call our transactional foreign exchange. And what this really means is we try to combine much more, not only trading, but also the settlement in one process. So we're combining our markets, our wholesale payments platforms into one, and also helping our customers to outsource their risk management directly to our trading. So I do a lot on the corporate space, the fintech space, as well as the e-com side, sales perspective for the APAC region. And originally, like I'm Dutch, so that's why a little bit the accent and my last name is very difficult.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Anna?
Hi, I'm Anna. I am a marketing officer at Orbex, and Orbex is basically a financial broker, so we are the Forex company here. We offer a wide range of trading instruments, quite standard to the market. This year we're celebrating our 10th anniversary, so the company is established, and we are very much established in the Middle East. And this year we're moving also to other markets. We have had presence in Europe and Southeast Asia. Now we're basically going like more deeper and getting more presence. So yeah.
Thanks, Anna. Ria?
Hi guys, I'm Ria, so I manage the FX sales team at Investec. So we are responsible very much for driving new business and bringing on that mid-cap corporate space and getting to really know their business and what their business objectives are, and making sure they're carrying out their FX in a way that protects them and manages them like all within their risk appetite.
Thanks, Ria. Ian?
Hi, yes. Hi, yeah. I'm Ian Daniels. I look after the FX distribution for EMEA and Americas. Nomura joined in September 18. I'm based in London and responsible for the establishing and management of our distribution platform for both the FX and emerging markets businesses in the region. For those who don't know, hopefully not many, Nomura is a global financial services group in over 30 countries. Our aim is to connect East and West, and we service from individuals, institutions, corporates through our business divisions, which are both retail, wholesale, and investment management.
Thanks very much. Great. So,
Right.
the first thing I'd like to say is...
The stage is yours. I'm going to let you take over, and I'll see you in a few minutes.
Thanks, Andrew.
Stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So the first thing I'd like to say is basically this should be an open discussion. I'm really hoping that, if you've got any questions, you'll pop them either in the chat or in the question section. The more interactive it is, the better it is. Let's kick off with that first question, the one that Andrew mentioned before, which is how to access local expertise to mitigate FX market risk and execution costs, or in other words, how to be like a global player and a local player at the same time. Maybe we'll kick off at random. Paul, you good for this one?
I'm happy to take the question. I mean, for us, it's a little bit easier because I think we have presence. Last time I checked, almost 60 countries. So local expertise, I have people in every country. So from a cost perspective, of course, it becomes a little bit more. But I think at the end of the day, you have to identify really your core markets and where you can get, for instance, support from third-party providers, from other liquidity providers, and really get the intel on the specific markets, as well as how can I connect in the most efficient way. So we utilize a lot of APIs now instead of doing, other connectivity. We're doing some AI stuff. As you know, we're also doing some stuff on the blockchain. So we're doing certain trades now over the blockchain just to make everything more efficient. I mean, I'm based in APAC, so every market is different. So it's 14 markets we're based in, but then every market has different regulations, different curves against each other. So it's a lot of information to pull in. And I think one of the things we're trying to do is pull the data in, foresee the trends in every market, and also see what we can get from our local teams to make it really centrally accessible across the globe.
Thanks. Yuri, maybe you have a different or a similar perspective on the same question?
Yeah, well, when I read the question and how to mitigate FX markets risk and execution costs, and then in relationship with local expertise, from a non-bank liquidity provider position that I'm in, I'm directly starting to think at partnerships. And purely from an execution perspective, for example, I think we've seen a trend when we speak to our counterparties who are in charge of executing their FX. They really look at what their LPs, their providers are, what their niches are. So what I mean by that is when we go to certain regions and we would like to set foot there and sell our product, basically, we really look at the reciprocity aspect to that. So when we go to Scandinavia, we might help them with our strengths, right, in G20 or G7 or whatever, and they help us with their local presence, their Scandinavian pricing, and that is, and we have partnerships all around the world in that sense to mitigate our own execution costs as well when we go to market. And this topic is very relevant. So a lot of our counterparties are really opening the engine of their hedging engine and really looking which provider is adding value where. And with these strategic partnerships, where they go to the source of liquidity, especially if times of market stress, what we've seen last year, I think that is key, and it's definitely a trend that we see in terms of mitigating your FX risk with local partnerships.
Great. Ian, we seem to have lost your visual, but hopefully you can hear us. Do you have anything you want to add, or should we pass you by? You good? Oh, you're back. Ian?
You can hear me now? Can you
Yeah.
Sorry, no, I think it's just changing my setup here slightly so you can see me okay. I think the key here is a couple of things, as Paul mentioned in terms of the electronic solutions, and I think these solutions are key for us. I think this allows you to access, we work with clients, many different clients across the board. The use of the electronic solutions allow that access to be simpler, and you can either have an access with you can access banks directly, like ourselves, or via intermediaries who may also have the local expertise. And I think it's Paul mentioned it earlier. There's sort of API connections as well as GUI connectivity is key. The API connection allows you to connect to people much more easily, and can also offer you the point-to-point connection, so you have a better relationship with that provider. I think if you look in, for example, Nomura in the EM space is key for us, and we feel we have the expertise there. And I think that in itself means that there's been a move to electronic trading in that space. And then what's important is having sort of local players, or at least people with the local expertise and the risk appetite, to help you with what you need, with your needs. So I think that for us, I think that risk appetite and local expertise are key factors to choosing a partner. Is that person that you're dealing with naturally focused on the region? Do they have the intellectual capital and risk appetite across the currency pairs? And also, thinking about having a provider who is able to absorb the size and of what you want to execute, however large, I think is important. So, I think there are various things at play there. For us, the use of electronic platforms as well. You've also got to think about, what are the operational risks that are out there as well. And we're all here in the modern forex world, and that FX is a very electronified space, but not completely. And I think if we look at the emerging markets world, it's I think a bit less electronified than perhaps G10, but the electronic world, lends itself to resolving some of those operational risk problems that come with voice trading. So I think we will see a gravitation towards increasing electronification in that space, and we hope to be a key part of that.
Great, thanks. Anna, although this is a question on the face of it, about mitigating risk and understanding where how to go, there is a marketing essence to it, which is from a marketing perspective, how do you handle being local as a global player?
Sure. Absolutely, localization is very important, because you cannot go into a new market and kind of send the same message that you are using on a global level. So I would start by saying that it's very important to do very thorough market research before you enter any market. to understand what products are popular or interesting in the specific region. Everything in terms of your marketing campaigns have to be specifically tailored in terms of the language, in terms of the offer as well. So it's an important thing. It's like a strategic decision what you're going to do. Of course, there's some markets that you can just enter also with a global message, let's say, but a lot of the markets, a lot of specifications, they have to be tailored. So for us, because we have a very big presence in the Middle East, we actually have and produces content, market analysis, and everything that's relevant to that market. We're doing the same for Asia, and we have a different team for Europe. So content-wise, message-wise, and product-wise, we try to localize it.
Great. So now I'm going to ask like the $64,000 or $64 million question, which is what's the secret to generating good leads, or where should we be going like in terms of marketing? Maybe I'll stick with you, Anna. You can kick off, and then I'll get to Ria.
Great, sure. Basically, I think there's no really like a cookie cut recipe, right, that we can use, and everything is going to look the same from broker to broker. I believe that when you talk about marketing, you have to use a good marketing mix. So we have to use all channels. We have to work on branding, especially if we're entering a new market. But we also need to kind of, again, go back to like market research, understand what is popular, what channels work better. Is it Google? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Do we have some very good influencers that we can approach in the industry, in that market specifically, that can help us? So kind of aligning everything, all the strategies together, utilizing the content, producing content that helps your SEO as well as the evergreen content. Like you can repurpose in your strategies, that also helps. What works well, for example, for more mature markets, I would say that producing market reports that you can offer like a very relevant data to traders, something that will interest them so they can download it, read it, come back to us with questions, or maybe open an account and start trading with us. Orbis generally, like our ethos here is serving traders responsibly. So we really pay attention to our support, as well as, anything that's on the level that we can offer to the traders to enhance their trading tools, analysis, things like this. And this is the things we're using to market, basically.
Great, thanks. I don't know if you got the messages yesterday from Google, but in case anyone is watching and didn't get it, Google have now announced that if you have a license in the UK, you need to have an FCA license in order to advertise. Mm-hmm. Those notifications went out yesterday. Just an extra bit of news that popped up, so I thought I'd mention it. Ria, maybe we can hear from you.
Yeah. So in terms of generating leads, I really think there's two things. We've now got loads of good AI and loads of good research tools to get the volume that we need of all the leads that we think are going to be appropriate for who we're trying to target. I feel like looking at the audience, we're all targeting, same but different people, maybe different sizes, different industries. So we've got all those tools to get the volume that we need. And actually, where we found generating leads to be the most successful is actually when we tailor something very specific to that person. So it allows that first email, that first connection, whatever that may be, to be really compelling and really, get them to engage with us and call back. If I give you an example of something, given that I reach out to loads of people, so I feel like I have my screen up and people try and do the same back to me. But one example that did get me kind of to call them back and entertain a conversation was they had gone on to my LinkedIn and looked at what I had last commented on and put a screenshot of that in the email, and kind of, made a comment around that. And that's something that doesn't take a lot of time, but actually has like a really high response of, people engaging. So what I would say is you get the volume by using all the artificial intelligence, and then in terms of generating the most leads and having the most engagement, you have to try and make it as tailored as you can, which takes time, but what we found is that it's definitely worth it.
Great. Ian, now we can see you like loud and clear. Maybe you want to take a run at this as well.
Yeah, I think just check. You can hear me, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think there's many things you can do here, and I think it's a mixture, and it was alluded to on the last panel in terms of the use of technology along with the human touch. And I think for me certainly the human touch doesn't go away. Maybe my age, but I think we certainly if you think about, for me, one of the analogies, if you look at the pandemic and how it's played out, look at school children. Think about my own daughter. You look at school children, and they're happiest when they were back able to see each other, right? And that's the new people coming through. So that shows me that human touch doesn't go away. Humans crave that human interaction. But that's to say, you can take away some of the repetitive tasks by the AI and things like that. So I think for us, in terms of generating leads in a sort of banking environment, think about maximising business with all parts of the organisation. Have we opened up all parts of the client that we know? If it's a regional bank, for example, are we talking to their FX options desk? Are we talking to their treasury desk to get their swaps business? And then you look at how we collaborating globally across the piece. Are we, in EMEA, are we talking to the guys in New York? There might be a hedge fund PM who trades different hours, who trades into New York hours. Have we talked with our New York coverage about covering him or her there, right? So I think I think that's important, as well as our own product, and then cross-selling. Are we talking to the different sales teams about cross-selling our products into them? I've got an example of a CTA fund we introduced to our rates team that became a key client for them. That's how you kind of maximise things, I think. And you look at the wider industry surveys that are available and that show the available wallet that's out there, because you also you only have so many bullets, and you want to focus on the right thing. You can look at there may be an available wallet from a client of X, but you can only do Y. So you're only able to be good at these certain things, and so you need to know those things and pull all of that together. So I think there's a various different mix of things you can do to generate those leads, be it internally. Often in our environment, it's actually internally first where you can get the most bang out of what you're looking for, but then externally as well.
Okay, thanks. Paul, you also like a salesperson, so where do you see the most effective leads coming?
I agree to a certain extent with Ian. I'm based in Singapore now for 10 years, and APAC is very face-to-face driven. It's a very relationship play, especially when we go into China, India, other markets compared. And if I go back to EMEA, it's a little bit more, you can do things over the phone. We still have to travel because people really expect you to be in their office, and now it's becoming more digital. I think I would say 5 things. 1, understanding the client, understanding their culture. That would be really one, and also the individual persons you're talking to. At the end of the day, you'll see certain industries, but you have to take into account also the cultural aspects. Like if you go to Japan, and I'm 100% sure Ian is, for instance, with Nomura, he has the same thing. You treat people from Japan differently when you go and talk to someone, let's say, who is in the Netherlands. And you have to take into consideration from your sales process. Secondly, data. What do you know about them? What do you know about their flows? What do you know what they need? And really do your pre-work, but also utilizing that data into your advantage. 3, where we're very much into is we're much more coming into how can we plug into their workflow and help them from an end-to-end basis. So not just plugging in rates, but what is really the next advantage? And it depends, of course, which sector. So we do some with a lot of our fintech partners, with, for instance, the retail brokers, where we really outsource the risk and offer them 24/7 trading, even while the currency is closed. So we take risk after market hours. And very much giving that a competitive angle to them. And lastly, the thing is, there's always, you have to find the bullets and use that data to really, find the right ones, because there's between mass marketing and individual ones. and use it to your advantage, because a lot of things is also just industry. You can replicate a lot of structures across the same industry, because they all have a certain kind of different kind of flow, and taking addition into account, country, cultural, workflow, etc.
Right, Yuri, you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I very much echo what's already been said here thus far. But something to add to that is, in a world where we can't travel, where we can't meet our new leads, our counterparties, it's also worth to take a step back and actually look what you already have. So for us, we've built a franchise of over 1,500 counterparties in the ETF space that we can target, where we've gained their trust, where we've become their top 2, the top 1 LP. So actually educating them that we now offer other services as well, where our flows come from and how that might benefit them. I think that is the real new lead generator, is already in the counterparty space that you currently already cover. I think then it's also, for new leads, what we didn't touch upon yet is if you work through partners. So really make sure that your partners, for example, the venues where you distribute your liquidity, your tech vendors potentially, really make them understand what your added value is, which role you have to play, what your strengths are, and via them you can actually generate a lot of leads. And what it enables for is that normally you want to create the barriers as low as possible for people to consume your prices, for example. And through these type of venues like ECNs, etc., you already know that the counterparty is consuming liquidity via these channels. So the barrier to entry and taking your liquidity is lower. So it's also generating leads through your franchise by educating what your added value is. That will make not only your own sales force work more efficient, but let other sales forces from different other companies with the same interest work for you, more or less. So.
Okay, that's great. So I mean, we've touched on the personal side, we've touched on personalization, you know, in this, and we've also touched on the technology side. And I think like the conversation obviously is moving towards technology as well, and how it's improving our lives, and the adoption of new and novel technologies such as marketing automation, lead enrichment, lead scoring, automation through processes. Maybe we can go around the table, and each person from their own perspective can give an idea of like what they've already implemented as far as like these new technologies. I mean, it'd be really nice if we had a good example of VR and AR, but I don't think we're quite there yet in Forex. But we can certainly look at you know, like some of the other stuff that's been already implemented, what's definitely on the roadmap, and you know what the vision or the dream is, you know, from each person's perspective, because I think it's very different, like in different parts of the process and different parts of the sector. So maybe we'll kick off with Anna, because it seems to be the easiest one, is because everyone talks about marketing automation already.
Yeah. All right. So I'll just start by saying that here at the moment we are concentrating now on email automation. So this is a channel that helps us with retention of the leads. So once the leads are converted, this is easier than to reach out and to retain the client. By serving very tailored messages depending on their trading strategies, they are various techniques they're using and things like that. Also, we are using email marketing for generally to follow up with demo accounts that can be potentially converted to live accounts, serving them different types of, again, email content based on their initial interaction and where they registered from, which parts of the website they've interacted. And then the same goes for generally our marketing with retargeting and everything. So we've got it very structured in terms of following customers with, again, more tailored campaigns, depending on the landing pages of interactive, the kind of banners they've seen, where have they seen us? Was it an event? Was it a website? Did the lead come, for example, from a search campaign? So this is the area that we're tackling now in the company. Of course, there's a lot of room for improvement. We're also currently now working on improving our support. So this is actually, we're going to be implementing a lot of chatbots as well to help us, again, something that we already discussed. And this is the sort of direction that we're moving to help the overall client experience. So from becoming the lead to becoming a registered client to also speaking to the company.
That's great. I mean, yeah, we've covered quite a lot there, but maybe we can switch to the sales side and go to Ria.
Yeah, of course. So two things, and Nick, if I go over, just don't feel bad cutting me off.
That's okay.
There are two things we've actually adopted quite recently. One of them is a process by which when we go out to our leads, we always talk about a follow-up and how important it is to follow up in the right way and in the right time, and make sure we spend all that effort finding those leads that we think are going to be really good for us, to make sure we're not letting anything slip. So what we've actually done is we've put an add-on onto our CRM system that automatically tells us when we need to be calling them or emailing them, and sets up automatic sequencing. So every day we can go in and see like who we need to call and what needs to be done, and it's all just done for us. We don't need to think about that sequencing anymore. And if you actually log everything correctly in CRM, which is probably one of my biggest problems for the team, if you log everything in CRM, it will pick up, you know, I called them and wasn't successful, so actually what's the next step? And I called them and I was successful, so what is that next step? And it goes off onto 2 or 3 different paths. So that's been really good in terms of our automation. And the other thing we're looking at, and this has really helped when we're still kind of working quite remotely and everyone's working from home, is that we're really honing into our conversational intelligence. So again, as long as the team are using something like Jabber, where the calls are being recorded, we're getting really good intelligence on the conversations that they're having with salespeople. It starts to tell us like, how are we getting positive sentiments? Are we getting negative sentiments? As a team, what buzzwords keep coming up? So it allows me to be better when we're sitting down to go through training, because I get a feel for what's going on and what we need to improve on. They also give you a lot of information on words per minute, conversation switches, what the longest monologue a client did while you were on a call. And again, when I'm not always with the team and in front of them, it really helps me kind of build a picture of what's going on in those calls that you're having with brand new leads, which is really important. But actually more of the pipeline stuff. We get a lot of stuff stuck in the pipeline for a long time, and the aim is to try and reduce that as much as possible. So by having that intelligence, it's really helped kind of honing those conversations, and allows the training that I do with the guys to be a lot more specific.
Great. I've actually seen a system like that someone's been working on that starts measuring sentiment and using AI to build up like a personality profile on each lead, so that even the timing of the follow-up and the messaging you should be given is starting to feed through, like with an automated script as well. It's you know, I think that's kind of like the way it's going. So you know, you have an 80% better chance of if you contact them at a specific time, and then puts that into the queue, and then pulls that up to the agent, which is great. But
I think we've got just another 2 minutes for a quick next one, and then we have to move on to the next panel, if that's okay.
Okay, so the guys I haven't spoken to about the same question as Yuri. I know you had like something you wanted to say about this as well, which I think is important.
Yeah, no, look, I think to add to that, it's also new technologies to support sales in a different way. We definitely seen a shift in a more data-driven sales in the entire FX sales cycle, and I think it's very tough for the buy side to estimate the benefit over costs by adding new liquidity providers, because there's just a lack of quantifiable data. So where we see a shift towards is that you will see simulations, you will use of technologies such as AI to actually get an estimation of what the improvement will be for a specific client by adding or removing a certain LP, or by switching from a sweepable to a full amount trading style. And I think that will really, armor a sales force with quantifiable data. And you come in and say, look, if you add us and we have a shared data set that we agree upon, this will be your down to the bottom line benefit. And that is currently not there. And I think that's what we will see in the near future. And the new technologies will enable that. And that is something that we are actively targeting as well.
Great. Andrew, do I have time to ask Paul the same question?
Very quickly to Paul for 1 minute. Absolutely. Go for it. Go for it.
Just have to unmute. I mean, I totally agree with Yuri. I mean, at the end of the day, data is becoming key. I mean, there's still personal relationship. It still comes into what you offer overall, and it also depends to who you offer and what you're working on. But I agree. I mean, data becomes more and more. And it's not just the data; it's how to use the data to your advantage for yourselves as well as for your customers to really show the benefits and continuously enriching that data and showing to the journey, as well as taking certain things from them so they can be successful, but then very much taking the headaches away. So I think data, it's more integration into their procedures, and really applying that the right way across the different clientele and their trading methodologies, what they want to achieve, their underlying clientele, but also bring new ideas how they can enhance their business.
Okay, thanks very much. I should leave you on a word of warning, which is I once wrote an article that proved categorically that the yield of potatoes in Belgium had an effect on both mobile trading and the US dollar price. So we should all be careful about what the data is telling us and not read what we want to see and actually read what there is there. Ian, I'm really sorry we didn't get your answer on the last one, but you have a great cricket poster behind you.
Thank you.
Great, Gary. And I'll say thanks to everyone on the panel. Thank you very much, and thanks to Andrew and Andrew.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everybody on the panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
So we had an amazing topic, one of my favorite topics, which is sales and marketing strategies. And now we're going to move on to another topic of mine, which is among my favorites, compliance challenges and opportunities. Now, this is a very, very hot topic. Right. We have Christos Tiniozos, the director at iSpiral IT Solutions Limited, joining us. And we have some amazing panelists. We have Catalina Michael, executive director in compliance AML at BD Swiss. And we have Andrew.
We have also we have Goncalo Lima, who is executive director at AML at Standard Chartered Bank. And we also have Georgia Aresti, who is...
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Georgia. How are you doing?
I'm very good. And you?
Very good. So compliance is a very interesting subject, has been for a while. 5 years ago, here in London, before I was even living here, I was aware that compliant companies in the financial sector were paying contractors £1,200 a day because it was almost impossible to find the right level of quality of expertise in compliance that would understand not only what regulators around the world want and cross-border regulations, but also the technology that was at the time very new in the compliance world. We'd switched from the grey suit with a briefcase to electronic trading related and electronic compliance systems, which are now very much de rigueur across the world. So that itself it shows the importance of understanding both regulations and technology in this particular industry.
Now, you see, on my side, it was exactly different. 5 years ago, we were seeing compliance taking things very, very easy in Cyprus. And slowly, things started picking up. And now it's one of the best and worst in the same time compliance procedures in Europe, because they're very, very strict all of a sudden.
They are, and they have to do so with the MiFID, with the way that the inclusion in the European rulings, and we've gone through MiFID since then. So, Christos, over to you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew, as well. To just continue what you have said, I mean, compliance careers are one of the hottest careers nowadays. Thank you, Catalina. Georgia, thank you so much for joining this panel. Goncalo, am I pronouncing it correct?
No, thanks for asking, Christos. It's Gonçalo. Okay. It's Portuguese, Gonçalo. So it's read as a Z. So thanks for that.
Excellent. First of all, can you introduce yourself, and then we can proceed with a few questions that we have, and if we have any questions from the audience themselves, we can go through those as well. Catalina, shall we start with you?
Hi, everyone. Do you hear me? Yes? Thank you for inviting me. I'm Catalina. I'm the Executive Director responsible for compliance in the BD Swiss. PD Suisse, it's not a very old brand. We are offering the usual Forex products, but we are trying to expanding a lot, not only in Europe, but over Europe. And to expand also in the banking area and in the fintech area and funds. So we are trying to cover most of the financial products and markets. I'm in compliance from 97. So I passed through all the challenges and all the regulations from the start.
Excellent. Thank you, Catalina. Georgia?
Hi, everyone. I'm Georgia. I'm the head of back office and AMLCO here at FX Primus. We are a forex broker. We are multi-regulated, so we do have clients from Europe. We work also with Asia, Africa, and other markets through other regulators. I've been in the industry for quite a while, 8-9 years now. Mostly in compliance and back office positions. So I've been quite involved with KYC, AML, risk, and that's about it.
All right, thank you, Georgia. Gonzalo?
Perfect. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the previous sessions for all the nice talks. I'll try to make the compliance conversation as interesting as possible. So I'll just a brief introduction on myself. I've been with Standard Chartered for quite some time, 13 years, I believe, and I'm part of the macro, so the rates and FX COO team. And I'm stepping in for my compliance colleague, so I hope to make this as interesting as possible. But there's definitely a common across all sections, and I think compliance is on that topic as well. Just briefly, Andrew mentioned the salaries of the contractors in 5 years ago in London, and of course 5 years ago we had MiFID II and the FX Global Codes jointly coming for the industry, and the industry had to invest a lot. In transitioning itself into a compliant, into a more compliant industry, and it's definitely been a good journey. But I'll leave it back to you, Christos, for the questions. And
thank you, Gonzalo, for that. To just add on that, I mean, compliance, it's interesting by its nature, I think. So, I mean, whoever is involved on the regulatory part and the compliance part, I mean, is very enthusiastic of what they have been doing. So I don't know if the others that see us, they understand that, but we do understand the how robust and dynamic the area is. Catalina, I would like to start with you. I mean, you've gone through different industries. I mean, you've gone through the banking industry. I mean, you are in the Forex industry for some time now. Can you tell me, I mean, what are the challenges that you have faced in the banking sector, and what are the challenges that you are facing now, and how you are tackling those challenges?
Okay, sure. There are some differences. However, considering can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So we need to understand that the banking and Forex, they face different risks, first of all. But of course, they have something in common. Considering that we need to understand, first of all the regulations implicated, which are different for the banks, different for the Forex industry. For the Forex industry, we have MiFID. Okay, it can be applied for the banks who are offering investment services, but they are tackled different. Also, we need to keep in track with all the regulations which are continuously improved, changed, more strict. So we need to find the way to prioritize them by understanding actually what regulators are prioritizing. And also we need to, technology is very important now. before everything was mostly manual. If I'm going back to 97, where we are doing everything manually, and now we are facing so much technology because you are in the area of speed. And to not forget that this COVID past year, made us to change many things. Now we face other challenges. We face more fraud. We are facing also, we need to face the employees' wealth and the well-being, because health, sorry, and well-being, because working from home, it's not easy. It was a big challenge. And we are facing also a lot of compliance resilience. Also big data now, and big data and people analysts, because now the regulators are asking more and more reports, and there are so many data, in place. The money laundering continuously. It's like the mobile app, updating. We had 4th, 5th, and now 6th, and many others. Brexit.
Okay, so you have your hands full, Catalina, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Yoria, do you want to add something on that? I mean, either through your day-to-day compliance operations that are related to the onboarding part of things, or during the assessment of your clients?
Yeah, well, Catalina mentioned like a lot of fraud, or for me, it's also like handling how the industry develops, payment methods develop, cryptos, for example, coming to the picture. So that's something new. Finding out how to handle this, how to be able to treat those clients that deposit via these methods, applying enhanced due diligence. It's very dynamic, and it's never ending, and you have to like have your eyes open all the time for everything that comes into the picture. But we are slowly adapting, and automations coming to the pictures as well. So also Catalina mentioned a lot of manual things that were done before, like all the KYC, the onboarding. Now we see solutions that we can automate the procedures, but then again, can we rely completely on those? So yeah.
Okay, thank you for that, Georgia. Gonzalo, from your side, I mean, you are in the banking sector. I mean, do you see that you have the same challenges as they have in the forex industry? And if yes, I mean, which ones are those that are similar, and which ones are those that you are explicitly facing yourself?
So I'm in the forex industry as well, and I think regulatory compliance can be quite an opportunity. Whilst we all win bits, technology can be used. You can only comply if you have the right tools, and starting with the first session to the JJ, and then the second session, you can see that technology is being applied at all phases of the workflow. So from KYC to onboarding to then the sales materials, the new channels that you interact with clients, all of it raises a lot of opportunities for you to create ideas from signals and data and all of that, but also creates the challenges of monitoring and surveilling all of it. And that's where we all been investing in a lot of those technologies. So you can use AI also for finding trading patterns. You can use AI to find conversation patterns, and you know that the industry had lots of fines on lack of best execution and some of unfair practices that were going on, and that's why the FX invested so heavily in lots of tools to make sure that didn't reoccur. So what we are seeing is effectively the same topics that our colleagues just mentioned, from the client interaction to the sales ideas. All of it is now part of technology is part of the whole life cycle. And I believe the colleague from JP Morgan mentioned the workflow, and how can you help your clients automating their workflow. And as more automated the workflow becomes, the more transparent and surveillable it is, and therefore more compliant. But it's not an easy task for the industry, and it's not cheap. So finding the right partners, going back to our flow traders colleague, you need to find the right partners to at each phase of the workflow to bring them in and try to reduce the costs and improve the client experience. So I'll stop there, Christos, and
all right. Thank you for that. Definitely. I mean, as you have said, technology right now it's the priority of the financial organization, so that they can seamlessly onboard clients by using, let's say, liveness detection, selfie, electronic document verification, validating the identity of the client, and then from there on validating the address through external governmental data sources, for example. And at the same time, you do the risk assessment, the transaction monitoring. But definitely, you cannot replace the critical thinking of the compliance officer. So, Catalina, let's go with you again. So, what are the things that the compliance officers are doing on a daily basis so they can tackle, challenges that they have during the day, related either with the onboarding or with the monitoring of the client?
Compliance is a very wide process. So we need to consider both AML and MiFID. Of course, first of all, we need to understand what is coming up with the new regulations on the AML side and on the MiFID side, ESMA side, or any other regulation which we need to consider cross-border, because acting as a group, compliance group, you need to understand the compliance of each country, and not only, but the culture of each country, because also the culture is helping a lot if it is understandable. So we need to try to prioritize our work as much as possible, based, actually, as I said, on what regulator are prioritizing. But of course, we need to think about our clients, because if you treat your client well, then the company will go well. So this is the most important, and it's the biggest challenge. Compliance will be always the most important, I believe. It's actually the engine of the company. So if you have a good compliance, then the company, it will keep the reputation, and because compliance is trying to help keeping the reputation of the company, and it's also need to keep a balance between business and the regulations. It's always this very important, and also compliance needs to be to have an open mind, needs to think out the box, and to come always with solutions for the company.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Catalina, for those insights. Georgia, the main struggle of each organization is building a culture of compliance without clashing on the effort of growing the organization. So, from your side, is that the fine line between creating a culture of compliance with?
Of course, what we are saying is, you have to build your compliance culture or your procedures or however you want to call it without ever superseding, without considering business profits. But then again, there has to be a balance, as Catalina said as well. Like, we need to be complying, but in essence, we need to make money. So the tackle is this, and also for me that we are working with multiple regulations, but we do keep, let's say, if you have a regulator that it's more strict than the others, but you are a group of companies, you cannot just localize and say, okay, I'm gonna just be more flexible here, more strict here. In essence, you have to follow the same prototype everywhere. Okay, you will modify a little bit, but you cannot just act it independently on whichever, like on this entity, I'm going to do this, on this entity, I'm going to do this. At the end of the day, it's one team, it's one company. Procedures are very, very similar, but we always have to keep in mind that we have to be open-minded and make sure that we are also helping the company grow. And that is actually difficult with after the release of MiFID and all the new procedures that are in place, all the restrictions. It's very difficult.
Do you know how we call compliance officers? Sales prevention officers.
So if I may, Standard Chartered is present in 59 countries. So whilst I see that description, Andrew, I think it's changing more and more, and compliance is actually becoming a differentiator. In this day and age, doing what's good and what's right is very important for the brand, for reputational purposes, and so on. And if you're not compliant, you can destroy the brand in 2 seconds. And therefore, because with all the network, we are a global business. Very quickly, if you do something wrong in market A, that will very, very quickly go to all your footprint. So we work very closely with our compliance officers, and we see it as, in many markets, we are seen as the standard because we are a UK regulated bank. We are in these 59 countries. We need to be compliant with everything, and therefore, people in our local markets look at us as the standard. It's standard is in the name. So what we see is that this is what we need to get right, and that will get the clients back to us. It will, I believe, it was JJ on the first session that was talking attention, and I believe Ria from Investec mentioned the same thing, making sure that, or flow traders, making sure that the clients that we already service, we continue to service them to the best standard. And I think that's the key. Having the tools and the technology to help the compliance officers making the right decisions is the critical thing. What rules do they need to know to make sure that whatever trades we go into are the right ones? What sort of, how do we prove best execution to a client? How does a client feel that they are getting the best service? So I think compliance is very, very quickly becoming a partner to the business and making sure that we can grow the business sustainably, rather than that old view that we all had, that in the past going to a compliance officer was getting a no. Now compliance is trying to be, how can we say yes to these transactions?
This is exactly what I wanted to say.
I mean, we call them innovation officers ourselves, Andrew. So I mean, the point here is to enable technology to bring the true positive cases to the compliance officers, so they can put their critical thinking in order to do the right investigation. This is what is needed, basically, to minimize the work needed from the technology side, and then push them the cases that needs to be investigated. This is what I think has to be happening.
True. Yes. Just like Catalina said a minute ago, you have to think outside the box. To me, the compliance officer is very similar to the lawyer. Yeah, you're afraid of them, but if they can think a bit outside the box, they're going to find a way to make the impossible possible. Fair enough?
Exactly, and it's very important to understand that the compliance culture, it's one of the 4 pillars in a financial institution, which means the financial institution needs also ethics, integrity, and values. Without these 3, you can't work in a financial institution. We saw so many happening, around the globe.
And also sales and marketing.
Yeah, and needs to start from the leadership, from the middle management and top management, and of course now compliance, as you said, all of you, it's a business role. It needs to get in the strategies. It needs to get in the risk assessment on all areas, and compliance needs to be on the table when it is deciding about technology in the company.
Definitely, Carolina, we agree with that.
Ask a quick question?
Sure.
Right.
And
now,
let me finalize what Catalina said. So basically, everything starts from the corporate governance. I mean, the director should be deciding the focus of the company in order to comply with the obligations from the regulators. So everything starts from there.
Well, the CEO and the owner of the company will definitely want to make more money, and they don't care how they do it. They're just going to be like, right, I put in 10 million in this company, make me the money back.
Oh, I think those days are gone now.
A change of perception on that,
yes.
Andrew.
So now you have the senior managers regime, where actually the certain roles of the company, and usually the top level, has personal accountability, and therefore if something compliance-wise goes wrong, they will be wearing the orange jumpsuit. So that is definitely a perception that is gone, and the senior manager regime is effectively there to ensure that people have constantly on building a strategy, on managing the company, on the client relationships. Constantly, compliance is an angle, and conduct and compliance is an angle that we all consider, and the personal accountability is there. So there's definitely a lot of concern and a lot of attention to that space, Andrew.
Yeah, and we can see from the higher angle, Andrew. Sorry, if you can see from the higher angle, you can see that if an organization, for example, in Cyprus, is doing something that is impacting as a whole the country, the FATF would be, would be down on us. So every organization has to be having the right corporate governance. The regulator is there to make sure that everyone is within the obligations given, and that it's creating a secure economy eventually.
See how many compliance answers versus sales. If you would ask the same question to the sales floor, they're going to be like, right, let's make some money. Right. Christos, we're way exceeding the time. Closing statements, please. And we're going to have to move on to the next presentation.
Sure. Thank you so much, everyone. Zalo, Georgia, Catalina, for a great panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Right. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. Now, ladies, gentlemen, traders, if you have questions, now is the time to type your questions. We're going to have a Q&A session towards the end. Right. What is happening next, Andrew? Tell us, because this is your expertise.
Absolutely. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is actually something which we touched on a little bit earlier that is perhaps lacking in some respects. It gets talked about, but not often acted upon. And that is what the future holds for the FX industry in general. So we're going to look at how to transform Forex trading strategies and adapt to the market changes, which have been substantial over the last few months, let alone few years. Wow. And how to redirect the changing nature of the FX market to the most appropriate way to look ahead, and what currencies, if we're going to look at currencies, what currencies will be the big shots of this year and beyond this year. And actually, there's been a big increase in peer-to-peer trading over the last few years, and actually it's accelerated recently. You can see the community-driven aspect of things. And so I'm joined today on this particular panel by some very senior, long-standing executives in the institutional and retail side of the business. So first of all, Natalia Hunik, who is Chief Revenue Officer at Advanced Markets, which is a prime of prime brokerage and liquidity provider, providing brokers all over the world. So hi, Natalia.
I see Avram is Despot, is founder and CEO at Tradepedia.
Hey, Andrew. How are you?
Hello.
Hi, Avram.
And who else do we have here?
We have Ricardo Evangelista, who is director at Active Trades Europe and is based here in the UK. Hi, Ricardo. Nice to see you.
Morning, everybody.
Hi, Ricardo. Thank you for joining us. Okay, very, very interesting topic, very interesting panel. Andrew, the stage is yours, and I'll come back in a few minutes to join the stage.
Sure, absolutely. So, this is something which we've really, you and all of us here have had this discussion several times. And usually this discussion takes place once or twice a year in front of industry leaders at conferences. We all talk about what needs to happen in the future. And we've gone through a period of not so much of steady building on improving technologies and improving execution practices for many reasons. One is because of the regulatory changes that have happened that have caused European and American brokers to actually have to adhere to best practices. Another is that there's an issue in terms of how to attract a different style of client base and how to stop competing with all the same type of companies and make sure there is some differentiation in the market so that there's a place for everybody. And how do we future-proof ourselves? Because we are the leading edge of the electronic financial services sector. So if we are leading this edge, how do we future-proof ourselves? And we've seen over the last year everything change from that kind of status quo where we talk about modernization and then it goes by the board because the momentum of existing practices is still there, such as low volatility in the forex markets and the talk about going towards a multi-asset trading strategy for many companies, but still retail brokers tend to buy into the spot forex and ready-made platform side of things, which makes everybody have a very similar offering. But in January this year, everything changed when Reddit board contributors started talking about meme stocks, and the meme stocks themselves are disruptive because they are companies that have previously produced nothing. Some of them have got no product at all, and they've started to get themselves into stock exchanges around the world, onto prestigious venues such as the London Stock Exchange and New York and NASDAQ, and they are bypassing all of the credentials that you normally require to list a company and going for huge valuations and being included in prestigious stock exchanges. And then you have all the Reddit board participants going on and creating their own market. So no one talks about traditional financial services anymore. It's all about crypto madness and meme stock influencing. It's rather like a YouTube channel or an Instagram followers competition, and that really is something which has forced everybody to modernize even further. So
that's a loaded statement, Andrew.
So where do we go from here, and how do we keep pace with these technological changes?
I think to answer. Ricardo, go ahead.
Okay, I'll get started. As you said, Andrew, I totally agree. I think the landscape changed radically. I mean, change is a constant. It's probably the only thing we can guarantee is that things will keep evolving, history will keep advancing, and there will always be changes and challenges ahead. But I think the pace of change accelerated dramatically with the pandemic and with the lockdowns that were imposed following the health crisis, because we had a unique set of circumstances, something that did never happen before. So many people working from home, having more spare time, having more disposable income as well, saving less, saving more, spending less, furloughs, etc. So this created a complete new set of circumstances that affected all spheres of life, including trading, or especially trading from our perspective, of course. You mentioned the challenges there. So the traditional FX space suffered the impact of these new mega trends online influencers and the rise of meme stocks, the rise of cryptocurrencies, crazy things like Dogecoin. It's all upside down. It's all upside down on its head. So I think where we go from here will depend on how we face this. And the only way to face it is to embrace it. We need to embrace these new circumstances. It's a new world. We need to adapt. The ones that try to fight it off and try to stick to the old ways may last for a while, but eventually things will dry up, because we already seeing that online searches, for example, for forex trading have diminished dramatically, while in the direct proportion as the searches for meme stocks and Reddit boards trading, etc., have gone up. So it's a new world, and we're going to have to adjust and adapt. How? It's not entirely clear yet, but there's already some trends emerging, and they include more focus on social, more focus on different channels to reach clients. But I'm sure that my colleagues here in the panel will want to say something about this as well. So I'll stop here.
I'm going to give it to FX industry, as Ricardo pointed out. I think absolutely the pace of change has been accelerating, but I think in general, FX industry is very agile. If you look at how things change from the regulatory perspective, from the technology perspective, all FX brokers tend to be able to adapt to those changes rather quickly. And some of those things that you mentioned, like the power of crowd and the meme stocks, I mean, we've seen it in FX before with the wide adoption of EA, for example, but thousands of people are buying the same expert advisor. So I guess it's not new. It's just at a larger scale. We also see companies that have pioneered social trading, for example, going public right now. So this has been in the market for some time. It's not new. However, absolutely, there's a lot of changes coming following the pandemic, and you can expect that. It's not happening just in the FX industry, it's also happening, the paradigm is shifting for other industries as well. So there's certainly things that FX brokers need to do. They need to innovate, and clients' expectations based on the last year's experience. I think everyone in FX, if you look at the financial results, had a great year driven by increased volatility. But as Ricardo pointed out, that yes, volatility is subsiding and the number of searches going down because you have other volatile things like crypto and meme stocks taking place. And so that is expected. And I think FX brokers are doing things to catch up and ride that wave. For example, they are introducing stock trading to tap into potential of U.S. stocks. For example, a lot of brokers are offering single stock CFDs into Asian markets that generally have less access to the U.S. stock market, and introducing crypto CFDs, and trying to catch up, trying to catch the asset classes, introduce new asset classes that are more volatile to diversify their revenue, and of course hedge against the low volatility environment in the FX.
All right, great. So I think you guys said it all, especially Natalia has talked about how the brokers are adjusting. So they are becoming financial supermarkets. They are offering stocks, they are adding cryptocurrencies, and they are adding all these nice things. And of course, Ricardo, what you said about the social aspect of trading, I mean, share manipulation has been around, as we all know it, from ancient times. It has just become more public now. Like we have Elon Musk with his tweets on cryptocurrencies, or the Reddit traders with the GameStop share, yes? So, I mean, for me that I've been doing this for a long time, nothing really has changed in the fundamental and in the core way of how trading is happening. What has actually changed is how public it has become, yes?
Yeah, it has. It has.
This is what has happened.
It has, absolutely. I actually think that there is a train of thought that actually think that all these fads and phases are fads and phases. They're not necessarily advancements. These kind of community-led things which we're seeing, such as such as meme stocks and all these kind of disruptive things that we're seeing. For example, you can see the behavior differences in people in the actual community. If 5 or 6 years ago, when the Swiss National Bank removed its euro franc peg on the, and it caused unprecedented volatility, and there was a black swan event, it claimed the lives of quite a few brokerages, and it caused banks to have exposure to negative client balances. Everyone went absolutely nuts, and regulators went nuts. It came up into the boardrooms of big financial institutions. It caused liquidity providers to start demanding huge escrow accounts from their customers. That wasn't even anything compared to what we saw in May this year. Suddenly, somebody who's nothing to do with anybody, Elon Musk, comes up, puts a tweet out, says this is we're going to not accept Bitcoin as payment for Tesla cars. Suddenly, $700 billion gets wiped off the price of a fake currency that doesn't exist, and then everyone sits there quite calmly and quietly. No one says a word, and in fact, they start to get interested in buying and trading it at its low point. That's incredible. That's never happened before. The slightest inkling of something untoward, as you say, Avramis, something we don't do properly like that, and everyone starts scratching their chins. Regulators start doing things. It gets all over the internet. There's lawsuits, and suddenly this happened. 700 billion down in one day, and people go, I'm going to start investing in that. That's absolutely unbelievable. And Elon, you can be sure that that's not 700 billion down just because you can't buy a Tesla with Bitcoin. It's because someone is saying what's going to happen, what he thinks is going to happen in the future. Wait like that for a few minutes and then go and buy it back again. So that kind of thing is disruptive and problematic, but everyone sat by and took it. So we really are seeing a difference in the type of people who are observing these things now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's been said is true. So there's always been a degree of market manipulation. There's always been influencers and people that put out messages with a hidden agenda. That's always happened, of course. It's the nature of the market. And however, what we're experiencing now is that the change is not the change in pattern, it's the change in mass. So there's a lot more mass. There's more people looking into these things, and the demographics changed as well. It's younger people, while the average age of someone interested in trading the financial market, say 20 years ago, was much higher than
much higher, absolutely,
exactly.
At least 20 years higher, actually, I would say, wouldn't you? About 45 years old now. It's 25.
Exactly. So this is also part of the changes we are experiencing. There was a pattern of change already taking over from 2016, and in the space between 2016 and the beginning of 2020, the most dramatic change that was happening in the market was linked to the consolidation. So there were quite a few mergers. There was a lot of people, as you said, Andrew, earlier, there were a lot of brokers that were offering exactly the same product, going for the sale, white labeling the same products. And so there was a lot of consolidation happening in the market.
And for very low margins, because they're all competing with each other on the same platform, and they're using the same type of strategies and very low profit margin and so forth.
Exactly. So now what we're seeing is that this is another. So now the equation became even more complex with the changes we experienced over the last 14 months or so. So I think, so it's going to be a challenge, but there's always also plenty of opportunities as well, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. And actually, sorry, Natalia.
Yeah, I just kind of expand on Ricardo's point. I think it's a great point. I think the pandemic untapped the new segment of traders. I mean, those are casual investors. Everyone you speak to is an investor. And it's a challenge and opportunity for the brokers, because obviously those newly created investors need a lot more financial education. And they're tapping into the market like cryptocurrencies, which is at its infancy. And that's why it's so easily manipulated. It also lacks regulatory oversight. That's why you don't see SEC going after Elon Musk for tweeting and creating massive.
Unfortunately,
they have nothing to enforce. They don't regulate crypto just yet, but I think that's coming. FX went through the same cycle, and any other asset class newly created goes through the same cycle. Eventually, it's going to be tightly regulated, just like FX is right now.
I think it is, and it's going that way. BNY Mellon is already on that already. They're starting to look at these asset classes, and they've already incorporated them. They're already doing that. So the question is, do we, brokerages and community in this industry, start chasing the multi-asset route and going down the expensive route of developing multi-asset platforms and trying to rival venues in Chicago, which cost $500,000 in exchange clearing fees and membership fees, and try and give that to the retail traders, which is what the push has been over the last few years? Or do we start making ourselves into neo banks and start getting EMI licenses and maybe having a wallet system and offering a range of electronic financial services, as well as, and CFDs and trading is just one of the range of products we offer, and you start rivaling companies such as Revolut and Tide and Starling Bank instead, because those are where all the millennials are, and the millennials want the app and the card and things like that. They don't necessarily want to go into Chicago and stand in the CME floor among middle-aged grumpy men like me. They want to go and see they want the new trendy card where they can put all their digital money in one place, and they want to have a holistic e-banking system to get away from the high street banks. Do we do that instead?
It's a good question, and I don't have an answer. I think the answer is it depends. But as you pointed out, the newly created segment, the millennials, I think, and in the pandemic, kind of introduced new realities into trading paradigm, because everyone now expects more. Everyone expects very easy process, an app, as you said. It has to, and as a brokerage, you have to add value. How do you add that value? Whether you spend in different asset classes or you do vertical integration, as you mentioned, or offer other services, banking, etc. That's a big question. I think it might depend on geography that you're targeting as well. But at the end of the day, you have to add value. And you already pointed out the lack of diversification in the space, everyone using the same technology. I think those times are gone where you can just take a white label, add the markup, and off you go. You have a ready business. You need to add value. You need to be better than everybody else. At the end of the day, you have a lot of competitors that are not even coming from the space. A lot of competitors have been created from the fintech space, like guys like Revolut and Robinhood. What does it take Robinhood to just add FX trade into their app, right? And
that's right.
Try to take your traders. So you have an increasingly competitive environment, and whether the answer is adding other assets or doing vertical integration into offering other services, I think that answer depends on each particular brokerage, the markets they target, the realities that they live in. But I think the status quo has been challenged throughout the pandemic. The brokerages will need to do something about it.
Certainly has. No longer can anyone just be a digital marketing lead buying agency and then take a white label. That is a thing of 20 years ago. That doesn't.
Oh, it's still
no good
possible.
Anymore. It's possible, but it's not
Probably
worth
is,
it. It's not the way. It's easy. It's an easy. Yes, Andrew, it's easy because you just go and lease it for $5,000 a month, and away you go. But where really is that going to lead your business into the future? You won't have a business because the intellectual property is not on your platform, and therefore you don't have any IP whatsoever.
Yeah, but talking about the millennials a second ago. Now, the problem with the millennials is, yes, they want everything easy. They want everything posh. They want everything. Yes, they are a problem. But what's their financial education like? Do they truly understand what a financial product is? Or all they want to do is, buy that Bitcoin that everyone is talking about? And all that's driving them is the fear of missing out. Do you B-book them or do you A-book them?
I think that's a question for risk management to answer. Look, I think going back to the point that Natalia was making, I totally agree. It depends on each broker's circumstances, so you have to be realistic. For many, diversifying offer and going for a multi-asset offer makes sense. Trying to get a bank license as well and offer other products and create and create an ecosystem, let's say, that includes trading, but also other financial services, could be the answer. But it depends, because we have to be realistic. We have to look at the legacy systems, at the legacy corporate structure, and it's not for everybody to take such steps. So I think each broker needs to look at its potential, look at its core strengths, look at its mission, and then decide which strategy to take. And I think we are at a time right now where these conversations are being had, and there's no clear path ahead yet.
No, they certainly are being had, that's for sure. We know that. There's a lot of brokerages with their own proprietary technology that are definitely going down that avenue, and certainly we are here at ETX Capital. We are also going down that avenue, and it has to be done, because you have to offer, as you rightly say, it doesn't. Natalia, you're right. If you go to Robinhood, okay, that might be a company that got itself in a bit of hot water, but they could easily go around and say, okay, we're now going to offer this service. They could just plug it into their platform. This is the modern way of things. So, Ricardo,
we're able to create a product that is appealing to millennials,
right.
And again, it's a very different generation. And the other Andrew was asking a question like, what do you do to cater to them? And now they're really financially educated. I think they're just a product of a different generation. They're digitally born. They're used to social media. They love the influencers, and Robinhood seems to be able to create a product that appeals to them.
They don't want to be told no by a high street bank, an old-fashioned high street bank who has strict parameters. If you call it, we were talking about this a few days ago, if you call one of these loan companies that gives venture capital to businesses, they don't tell you go to the bank, and they don't have anything underwritten by bank. It's all done by fintech companies that have got crowdfunding, because it's very easy to go and say you're a fintech, and then everyone wants to fund fintechs. You say, oh, I'm a fintech. Every venture capital company in the world will give you money. If you go and say I'm a forex broker, they won't even give you a bank account to put your clients' funds in, and most of the time. So because they say, well, what intellectual property have you got? Where's the intrinsic value of the company? How much risk are you taking? Oh, you're taking risk. You're operating a B book. No, thank you. But like Ricardo said, operating a B book is fine as long as you're operating it according to the correct price feeds. However, from a banking point of view and from a financial markets point of view, that is risk. Whereas somehow, if all of us walked into a VC conference right now, you'd walk away with and had a business plan to start a neobank or to offer a kind of online credit facility that is funded by all sorts of different new asset classes, they would think you're a genius, and you'd get a huge amount of capital, even though there's no intrinsic value either in that business. So you can see where the mind of the investor is going with all this.
Yeah, fair enough.
Absolutely.
Avramis, Natalia.
Yeah, to that point, I think Andrew is absolutely right. I think it's very hard to get funding for FX brokers, and you don't see many exits, right? And the exits that you see in the space are people who actually were able to add value, whether it's plus 500 with their complete market and automation, or it's other people like eToro, who is looking to go public through SPAC, that they can completely create a completely new social trading platform. So at the end of the day, you need to add value. You need to have a differentiator. You probably need some IP to make a very successful exit. And if you want to get investors in, you do need to have that competitive edge.
That's for sure. I agree.
Fair enough. Right, I see Cube Events just joined us. Lily, welcome to the panel. How are you?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Natalia, it's 5:30 in the morning. Just tell everyone what you did to be here with us today. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody. What a great panel. Thanks to all our panelists. Thanks to all our speakers, our contributors, our sponsors, iSpiral and Eva. Wow, great job from our chairman, the Andrews. The Andrews did a great job. Thank you for everything. I know we were meant to have closing comments, but we're completely over time. So just thank you from everybody here at Cube and everyone that's participated. We did 18 contributors actually today, so it's unbelievable in 2 hours. So thank you to everybody for the contributions. Ricardo, Avramis, Andrew and Andrew, I'm leaving you to say the final word. 30 seconds each, please. And this event closes. Natalia, thank you so much. Ricardo, Avramis, everybody being here today, and we greatly appreciate it. It was a great event.
Thank you all very much.
I'm going to give to Marta 1 second as well. Marta?
Yes, thank you all. Thank you for all the great speakers. It's been an amazing job as always. Let me show also the polls results.
Great.
For a moment, apologies. So yeah, the greatest challenge we have managing the currency volatility. Let me maximize. The biggest challenge brokers are facing, we have managed increase and KYC, 40% both, and RegTech solutions, workflow management. It's the winner. Thank you so much for voting and yeah, for being active today.
Thank you, Marta.
Great. Thank you. Thank you to everybody again. Andrews, are we closing? Thank you, everybody.
Right. Let's close. Let's wrap it up. Andrew, how was it?
Very interesting indeed. I think some of the differences we've seen over the course of this year, now we reconvene again like this, and I'm kind of hoping that there will be people who will take the effort to reconvene face to face, because I think anyone here knows my opinion on that. You know, we've had similar kind of challenges in the industry, but they are being approached from a different perspective now. Certainly over the last year, everything has changed, and it's not just to do with the way the political world has changed and our challenges. It's genuinely a demand from consumers that has changed. So what we're seeing is over the last panels the panels today that have spoken, and you know, some of the senior executives here have been in this industry for a very long time and been through a lot, and we've all been there to see this happen. We're seeing the discussion subjects of discussion today are quite different. They are the same issues but different solutions to those issues. So we're definitely seeing a almost revolutionary period in the industry.
Yes, it is a revolutionary period indeed. From my point of view, how I see it, how I feel the market trend is that the AI, the artificial intelligence, is definitely needed, and it's definitely the future, just like cryptocurrencies might be the future. But in terms of AI and cryptocurrencies, we need a lot of knowledge, a lot of education, and a lot of understanding and backtesting to make sure it doesn't interfere too much with the human factor. Would you agree?
Certainly, I think so. And I think you've got to be very careful with these influencer-driven markets nowadays, because no matter how much regulation and compliance and acceptance by major financial institutions, because now they're having to bend. I mean, you're seeing Wall Street banks bending over now and kowtowing to these things because they feel like they've got no choice, because they feel like dinosaurs. However, you've got to be really careful if you're one of those institutions, because it's all very well bending over to a trend and thinking that's the future, and then along comes someone with a keyboard and a Twitter account, and then that's the end of your 400-year-old bank. Memories are very short. Remember Nick Leeson who managed to single-handedly destroy the world's oldest investment bank and go to jail for it for 15 years. So, you know, now everyone's sitting back very calmly because they're not commuting to work and they're sitting at home with their feet up on their sofa and thinking, you know, crypto is the latest thing. People are talking about things on social media. I'll get in on the action. And they're doing it very calmly. So, and you can see the market moving. So what we've got to do in this industry, in my opinion, is to develop systems and ways that attract that type of client base, but keep it within the realms of a technologically advanced financial markets ecosystem. And we've done it before. You know, things like MetaTrader, which was never designed as a trading platform really, has been enhanced by bridge and liquidity technology companies that have connected it to live markets, and now it's a genuine platform. Things like that. We need to keep doing what we're doing best really, which is to look at the forefront and keep it in the keep the trends as part of the genuine financial ecosystem.
Right, very well said, Andrew.
That's perfect. I'm ending you all there. This platform will close if we don't close it now. So I'm wishing everybody a great day ahead. Thank you for all your contributions, our sponsors, our contributors, our speakers, waking up from early hours of the morning to late hours of the night. So thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day. Thanks to our chairman. Great job. Great event. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Are we out?
No.